the formulas proper. All right. So what I'll be doing mainly is that at some point I'll just bring somebody up so that we can make it as hands-on as possible. So that's what we'll be doing. So let's just start. I am tempted to want to push the printing setup to later, right? I might just do a bit of an expansion on what we have here so that we can get a clearer picture of what I really want us to get here. So let's just leave this for now, and then we'll come to rows and columns. So yesterday, when we were working, let me share my entire screen so that everything is going to be visible. So entire screen share. Okay. All right. So yesterday, when we were working, we established something that the rows are identified by numbers. So you see 1, 2, 3, all the way to the last row in Excel, which is 1,048,000. And then the columns are identified by the alphabets. So there are about 16,000 columns. And then you have the last one here. All right. So now we want to learn how to work with these things. Um, there are a few things we can look at here. So let's start with the columns, right? So when we want to look at this particular column, we can come here. What, let me um increase this a bit so that the things that we're doing will be very visible. Now, when you are here, you realize that the cursor you are seeing is a bit different. At different parts in the worksheet, you see different types of the cursor. Now, the normal one you'd see here is it looks like a cross, like a plus, right? But then if you move to where you have the the row number, you realize that it has changed to like a right pointed arrow, right? That's what you see. So now if you want to highlight this entire row, you just click on this and then the entire row is highlighted. So anything you are doing here, say you want to set a font color, you can just come here and then you click on this. If you want to set say a cell color as well, you can click on this and then the cell color comes. Now, watch what is happening here. If we move to the side, you realize that even the cells in which we don't have any information, it is colored. All the cells are colored. And the reason is because when we were trying to highlight this out, the we highlighted the entire column, sorry, the entire row, right? So what we'll just do is we'll undo this. So in order for you to ensure that you don't make that kind of mistake, all you have to do is just to highlight the things uh that have information, right? And then you leave this entire part out. So yesterday we looked at the shortcut in order to highlight the entire thing. So what I just did here is just to I pressed the control key, I pressed the shift key, and then the arrow right key. So what it does is that it highlights the entire thing for me up to where I have an information. Now, if I delete what is here, if I delete this four, and then I come back and I want to do the same thing, control shift arrow right, you realize that it is ending at a place where I have a data. It's not going to pick this blank space because it is blank, because there is nothing there. Now I can just press control and shift arrow right again and arrow right again, and then it highlights the whole thing. So I'll just do control Z and then I'll bring back the information I want. So now let's look at how to work with rows. So in order to, let's say we are entering this data and we realize that in between 5 and 6, there is another information that we should have entered. In fact, we missed an entire um an entire column of information, right? So we'll just come here to 6 and then we are going to right click our mouse, okay? We right click and then you see a few things here. The first thing you see here is cut, right? So when you cut means that you are taking the entire thing off entirely. So if I press cut here, you realize that it brings in this thing that shows me that the entire thing is highlighted, right? Now, if I say I want to paste this on a new sheet, and then I just come here, I right click again, and then I click on paste. Now the information comes here, but when I come back here, I realize that this entire thing is gone because I have removed it entirely from the data set. So I'll just do Control Z to bring it back and then escape for this thing to stop indicating that I've highlighted something. But if I want to, if I right click again and then I come to copy, right? I can come back here and then I paste. And when I come back here, I realize that my information is still here because I copied and I didn't cut. So that's another thing we can do. So we've looked at how to cut, how to paste. We've looked at the difference. We've seen the paste. So cut, copy. And another thing is insert. So like I was saying earlier, in the case where an information should have been between 5 and 6, all we just need to do is right click, come down, click on insert, and then realize that it has inserted a space for us to enter the information that we want. So note that anytime you want to insert, it inserts right above the the row in which you have highlighted. So now you realize that I have highlighted row 6 and I want to insert. If I right click, I click on insert, you realize that the one I've highlighted has moved down to row 7 and then it has inserted the empty space has now come to row 6. Okay, so note that if you want to insert something in between 6 and 7, you don't come to 6, you come to 7. All right, so I'll just right click again. If I want to delete this entire thing entirely, I can just click on delete and then it's gone. So Control Z for it to come back, and I'll right click again. If I want to clear the entire content, but then I want um the the row to remain, I'll just come here, clear content. Everything is deleted, but I still have a row intact. So Control Z to bring it back again. So the next thing we can do is to format the cell. All right. So depending on what we want it to look like, we can format it. We can come to alignment, say we want to wrap the text, we want to merge the cells. We looked at some of these things yesterday, and then we want to change the font of this particular place. So let me just click on this. I'll make this bold and then set it to 14. I'll change the color to green and then I'll do single underline. Let me strike through as well and then let me click OK. So you realize that I have done all of this just by formatting the cell. We looked at formatting cells proper yesterday. So I can just format the cell again here just by coming here and then right clicking and doing format cells. All right. So I'll just do Control Z to undo all of those things I've done. Again, I can just right click. I can set the row height. If I feel like the height of this particular thing is not enough for me, there are two ways to do that. Mainly, right? I can just right click on this, come to row height. So the current row height is 14.4. I can just set this to 25 so that the difference will be very visible. I click OK, and then you realize that um, it has increased the height of the row. If I close this up and I see that this thing is not showing very well and I want to increase the row height, there is an automatic way to do it, right? So I just come in between 6 and 7, right? Again, like I was saying, the cursor changes, right? So this is plus, this is arrow right. Now, if I come in between 6 and 7, realize that it has changed to a kind of plus, right? One arrow going up, one arrow coming down, and then there's a line in between. So what I just have to do here is when I see this cursor, because I'm in between 6 and 7, I'll just double click and then it's going to automatically adjust it for me. So it's going to automatically adjust it for me when I double click on that. So that's another thing we can do. So another thing we can also do is to hide this row entirely. So then you realize that when I click on hide, 6 is hidden. So I can see 5 and 7. If I want to unhide it, I can come and look for this this type of cursor in between 6 and 7, what I believe to be 6 and 7. And then I double click again, and then my 6 comes. Otherwise, if I hide it, I can just come and highlight 5 and then 7. I'll right click and then I'll click on unhide, and then my 6 is back again. So the same thing applies to the columns as well. You see, cut, copy, insert, delete, clear content, format. It's the same thing. So the only difference is that if you want to insert a column, right? I want to insert a column. Let's say we have order ID, region, country, product category. Now I want to bring the name of the customer in between product and category. I will not come to um I will not come to country if I want to insert between this and this, because it's going to insert it the the column in which I select, in this case column C. Excel is going to insert the new column to the left part of the column in which I've selected. So let me just go ahead and do this. Insert. You realize that it has inserted it to the left part. So if I undo and I come to column D, right? So you realize that at the row side, it is arrow right, but then at the column side, it is arrow down. All right. So I can just come here and then I click on insert, and then realize that it has inserted a column for me in between. All the other things we looked at when we're talking about the row also applies here. All right. So cut, copy, insert, delete, clear content, format, all of those things applies. So it's the same thing. Any questions so far? If there is no question, kindly give me a thumbs up so that I know we can move on. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Sure. So let's move on. Let's move on. So I'll just delete these because I don't need it. All right. So now we'll come to conditional formatting. Conditional formatting, what it does for you is that it helps you to highlight information in a data set like this without having to filter out or sorting it out or copying it to another part. And then when I start, you're going to get a picture of what I mean. Now, let's say we have the countries here. We have Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, right? And what I want to do is that when I'm sending this data set to the stakeholders, I want them to see everything that relates to Ghana in a very in an highlighted way. So every time Ghana appears, I want them to see. So what I'll just do is I'll come here. You see conditional formatting. So I'll just come to conditional formatting, and then I'll come to highlight cell rules. So there are a few things. We look at the number part, greater than, less than, between, equal to. But in this case, we want text that contains. All right. But in this case, it is only applying to the cell, the active cell. We explained what active cell was yesterday. That is the cell in which we are in at a point in time. The cell in which you can see this green box at a point in time. So now you see that a text that contains Ghana is being highlighted here. And then it is saying that highlight it with red, light red field with dark text. Okay. But then I want it to apply to this entire column, right? So just click on this to highlight the entire column. Otherwise, we can just Control Shift arrow down, and we have selected this. Come back up and then come to conditional formatting. Okay. Then we'll come to highlight cell rules. Text that contains, no, I don't want Nigeria, so I want Ghana, right? So Ghana should be light red field with dark text, and then I click OK. And I can also come here again and do text that contains Nigeria, and then I want Nigeria to be, say, green. Okay, then I click OK, and then I want Kenya to be yellow. Kenya, right? So Kenya should be yellow, and then I click OK. So now when I send this to my stakeholders, and say for instance they already know the color code, the moment the person sees green, the person's mind goes to Nigeria. You see red, your mind goes to Kenya. You see green again, you know that is Nigeria. So it just gives you a bit of an idea of the information that you're looking at. All right. So another thing we can also do is to work with the dates. All right. In this case, I'll just highlight the column. So conditional formatting again. So we can look at dates. So a dates occurring. Let's look at this. So not yesterday. We can um say last month. Do we have anything in relation to last month? No. So let me cancel this and then look at let me see. No. I just want to look at for something that would apply. Um so between, all right, okay. So between makes sense. So let's say between, so this is February 15th, 2025 to May 15, so May 16, 2025. So now I want those particular dates to be highlighted out. So I'll just set this to green and then I'll click OK. So now when I send an information, a pre-information to the stakeholders that anything you see in green means that it is in relation to this date to this date. It gives them like a mental picture of what is going on here. And we can also look at say other quantity. All right, we can look at other quantity conditional formatting, and then we can look at color scale. All right, let me just okay, let me use data bar. Let me use data bar. Okay, I think this is more clear. All right, so now you realize that what is happening here is basically just giving you a very clear view, and it's telling you that the very small orders are shown in a very small bar, whereas the higher orders are shown in a very in a fuller bar. If I increase this a bit, it is still going to tell me the same story. All right. So this is what conditional formatting does for you. This is what conditional formatting does for you. So we can also look at the total costs. All right. Let's highlight this and then see another conditional formatting. And then let's say I want you to highlight the top 10 items for me. Highlight them in green and then okay. So now automatically I know that anytime I see this, I can tell my stakeholders that all of the total cost you are seeing in green, shaded green, are the top 10 items. So when the stakeholder is scrolling through, the person can easily see which items are in the top 10. All right, which items are in the top 10. So basically that's how conditional formatting works. And we can also look at the product weight. Let's look at what we can do here. We can do icon sets and then let's select this. So you realize that the arrow down ones with a red arrow are the ones with the lower weight, right? The products that weigh lower, and then the products that weigh um oh, the lighter weight products, sorry, they are the ones with the arrow down and in red. But then the products that weigh more, they are the ones in the arrow up with green arrow. So this basically just gives you a clear idea of what is going on in the entire data set without having to filter or do anything. So basically, that's what conditional formatting does for you. Another thing you can also see is it can also point out a repeated item for you, a duplicate item. So let's look at order, for instance. In a situation where you are working with unique values, like order ID, for instance, an order ID is supposed to be unique. So um, we come here and then we can just come to duplicate values, right? And then highlight with red text. So when I click OK, you realize that when we scroll through this entire data set, there is no duplicate value. But if I copy this and then I come here, I paste it, immediately it's going to highlight it in red, telling me that this particular order ID has been duplicated. So when you are doing your analysis, you can easily use something like this to easily fish out the things that have been duplicated and then the things that you want to easily highlight in your work. So that is how conditional formatting also works. Um, Kindly let me know if you have any question, and if there is none, just give me a thumbs up so that we move on. Okay, okay, all right. So let's move on. Now we are coming to relative referencing. Relative referencing. And what referencing does for you in Excel is for you to avoid errors, right? Referencing helps you to avoid error in Excel in the sense that, um, okay, so let me explain it this way. It helps you to avoid error, and it also helps you to make your results predictable and automated. Now, this is what I mean. When I want to get the net income is basically revenue minus expense, and then we get our net income, right? So again, yesterday we spoke about the rule in Excel that if you are starting a formula, you begin with equal to, okay? Because another thing we discussed yesterday was that um, it- the things that you can enter in Excel, you can enter a number, you can enter a text, you can enter alphanumeric, you can do alphanumeric entries, you can enter a formula, you can enter a function, you can enter special characters, or a mixture of all of these things. Now, if I say I want to subtract 13,000 from 25,000, and I come and say and type 25. Okay, let me zoom in a bit so that it becomes more visible. Okay, I want to subtract 13,000 from 25,000. So I come 25,000 minus 13,000, and then I click enter. Automatically, you are seeing what is happening here. Now, what Excel is understanding from what I'm doing here is that I am entering numbers and special character. That is what Excel is understanding. But for me to tell Excel that what I'm coming to enter now is either a function or a formula, I have to begin with equal to. The moment I introduce equal to at the beginning, I'm automatically telling Excel that I am writing a function or a formula. So now I can now type 25,000 minus 13,000, and then I'll get my answer. Now, if I come here and then I change this 13,000 to say 12,000, you realize that the answer here has not changed until I come here to change it to 12,000. But in order to save ourselves the stress, because somebody can even come here and enter 1,200, and then you are getting a wrong answer. But in order to make predict my answer um, automated and reliable, I can just do something called cell referencing. And what it means is that instead of typing out something in another cell, you just click on that cell or you type the name of that cell, and then it was going to give you the answer. Now, this is what I mean. So I'll just do equal to, and then I'll come and click on this particular cell minus this particular cell. And then I click enter, and then it gives me my answer, which is 13,000. So now if I come here and then I change this to 20,000, right? You realize that automatically my answer changes. Okay. So that is one aspect of referencing a cell. Now, if I want to come and answer this question over here, I have to come and type this thing again, equal to this minus this. But then I can save myself all of that stress. And I can save myself that stress by just coming here. And then when you see this green box, there is something down here, bottom right. It's like a box, a small tick box, right? You just bring your cursor there and then it changes to a plus. The moment you see the plus, all you have to do is either left click and drag all the way down, and or you can just come here, double click, and then it comes down. Now, what Excel is doing is that it is referencing, when it comes down here, it is referencing what I did in this cell above to this cell below. Now, again, another thing I want to just point out from what we did yesterday was we looked at um, in relation to rows and columns, right? We looked at row number and then the columns alphabet, because we explained something here called the name box, right? And in the name box, any cell in which we are in, the name box tells us. So now we are in cell D. We are in column D, row 4, right? Column D, row 4. So the name box is telling us that we are in column D and row 4. Always the alphabet comes first. So that is the columns alphabet comes first, and then the row number follows. So now, when we look at the formula bar, another thing we explained yesterday was that the formula bar basically tells you what you have done in a cell, because the cell retains the answer for the formula or the function that we've written, but then the formula bar tells you the the formula or the function behind what the answer we are seeing in the cell. So that when we look at this particular formula bar here at the top, so we are seeing that it is telling us what we did was B4 minus C4. All right, B4 minus C4. Now, when we come down here, you remember that what we did was we dragged this, or we double clicked it for it to duplicate what we did. Now, this is B4 minus C4. When we come down, you realize that it has changed to B5 minus C5. So what Excel is basically doing is it is picking the intelligence of what we did in the above cell, and then it is replicating it all the way down. So now when we come down here, you see it is B6 minus C6, B7 minus C7, B8 minus C8, B9 minus C9. So that is basically how relative referencing works. Is there any question regarding relative referencing? Any question? Okay, if there is no question, I'm going to need a volunteer to solve this relative referencing tool for me. I'm going to need a volunteer. Any volunteer? So you just share your screen, and then um, you tell us what you are doing, and then you do it for us based on what I've explained. Any volunteer? I want us to make this as hands-on as possible, so I'll need somebody to volunteer to solve this for us. Or I should pick at random. Okay, so if nobody is volunteering, um, Odunayo, are you there? I want you to do the second one for us. So just share your screen, and then you show us what you're doing.
Hi Moses, how are you today?
I'm fine. I'm fine. How about you?
Fine, thank you very much.
Awesome.
I'm not using my system right now. I'm just following up on the classes. I'm unable
Mm,
to use my system for now.
okay,
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. Benis, are you there?
I'm there, Moses.
Okay, so can you share your screen
I'm,
and do it for us?
I'm, I'm also following. I'm not using my screen.
Oh wow,
Mm.
wow, 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 wow.
The husband hasn't returned from me. He used my machine today. So.
I see.
Okay.
Um, Dennis, are you there?
Yeah, yeah,
Can you share your screen?
yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But I'm using Google Sheets.
Okay.
So do I need to find a 10% tax first?
So you can actually do the two at a go. So you can highlight both and then you just drag it. It should give you the same answer. So that's E2 and F2.
Okay. Well,
Awesome. That's great. So it's just it works like magic. So once you understand the principle behind it, you should be able to easily get your answer. Is anybody lost? Should we do it again or we are all good and clear? Okay. Okay. All right, we're good. Thank you, Dennis. All right. So I'll just continue from there. So what we just did was come here. So if you want to do it one at a time, you can just double click on this and then come here to double click and then your answer comes there. So in essence, just note this. If you don't have a data here, so let's delete this and then you come here and you double click. Okay, fine. It's still replicating it for us. So that's okay. But sometimes what would happen is that it might just end here because there is nothing here. It might just end here and then you might have to just now drag it down from here. Let me see if this is going to do the same thing. All right, so it works perfectly. It works perfectly. All right, so I'll just do this, double click both, and then we have our answer. So it's the same principle, right? It's the same principle. So this minus this minus this minus this minus this, and then we are good to go. So now let's come to absolute referencing. What absolute referencing does for us is that when we have something as a constant and we are comparing it to something that is variable, we want to lock something, we call it lock, some people call it fixed, some people say making it absolute, right? We want to make the constant thing absolute or we want to fix it, but then that which is variable will still be changing. Now here is what I mean. In order to get a gross, right, it will be average ticket price multiplied by the ticket sold, right? So equal to this multiplied by this, right? So enter. So now this is our gross, right? Now let's drag this and see if we are going to get an answer. So we realize that we are not getting an answer. And I'm going to explain it to you. So watch very carefully what is happening here. You remember we were looking at the columns alphabet and then a row number, right? So in this case, we are we are multiplying F3, right? Which is the ticket price by the ticket sold, right? Which is D3. Now, when we come a cell downwards, you realize that it is multiplying D4, which we have an information there, by F4. But there is nothing in F4, right? And then it's doing the same thing down here, which is D5 multiplied by F5. So what is basically happening here is still relative referencing. But what we want to do is an absolute referencing. So it means that we want to make this F3 absolute so that even when we drag this down, this is not going to change. This F3 is going to remain constant whilst this is going to be changing. So in essence, what we'll just do is we'll come behind the alphabet, which is F, and then we bring the dollar sign, and then behind the 3 as well, which is in between F and 3, we bring the dollar sign, and then it means that we have made F3 absolute. So enter. Now, when we drag it down, you realize that our answers are coming because now it is D4 multiplied by F3, D5 multiplied by F3, D6 multiplied by F3. So basically that is how we fix it. Another way to also fix it is by um when you just after typing the F3, you press F4, right? F4 on your keyboard. So some people, the moment you press the F4 immediately, it comes. But some people, you'd have to press the function key on your keyboard. It's usually somewhere um bottom left, right? So you press the Fn and then you press the F4 key on top of the keyboard, and then the dollar sign comes behind the alphabet and then the number. All right. So now we can just do this, and then it is replicated. Is that clear enough? Okay. All right. Awesome. So now we'll just come to the second example of absolute referencing again. Now in this case, um, this is it's saying that we have adult ticket sales and child sales, right? And then we want to multiply it by each, and then we get the revenue. So what we just do here is we do equal to, right, this, or we have to open a bracket first. Open brackets, this multiplied by this. Remember, we have to make it absolute, F4, close the bracket, plus, open another bracket, this multiplied by this, make it absolute, and then we close the bracket and enter. So we get the total, and then we drag it, and we should get our answer. So basically what I did here was this multiplied by this, all right, 900, and then this multiplied by this, and then just added the two together equal to this plus this, so which is 970. All right, but then in essence what we were just doing was that when we multiply B4, which is the total sales for adult tickets for the Christmas concert, we are multiplying it by the adult ticket price, right? Before we are now coming to add it up to the child ticket sales, the total ticket sales for the child, and then the child ticket price. And then we add the two together, then we get our answer. Is that also clear, or I should take it again? Are we good? Okay. Okay, so let me take it again. Let me take it again. Now, so what we are saying is that we want to know the total revenue, right? And in order to know the total revenue, we have to add the adult ticket sales to the child ticket sales, right? Now, this is the total number of tickets that were sold for the adults for the Christmas concert. So 120. We sold 120 tickets to adults for the Christmas concert, and then we sold 35 to kids for the Christmas concert as well. Now, the adult ticket price is 7.5, but for the child, it is 2 cedis. So, in order to get the prices for the two and put them together, we are saying that let's bring our equal to, right? Then we open the brackets. So, we want to get for the adult tickets first. So, we click on this one. So, we've sold 120 multiplied by the price. So quantity times price, right? But because we want to drag it, because the price for, let me quickly, sorry about that. Okay, so because the price for the ticket is constant, right? It is the same thing for the Easter extravaganza summer concert. It is the same thing. So the price for adult tickets is the same thing. And then the price for the child ticket too is the same thing. So it means that the adult ticket price is constant and the child ticket price is constant, but the quantity varies, right? So remember what we did here. This is absolute. This is This is absolute, but this is variable, right? So we are applying the same logic here. So then we are just doing equal to, right? Open the brackets. This multiplied by this. But remember, because the ticket price is constant, we have to fix it. So we bring F4, right? So we close the brackets. And then we want to add it to the sales for the child, right? So we open another bracket. Then we do total ticket sales for the child multiplied by the price of the ticket for the child. And then we'll make the price absolute again. And then we close the bracket. All right. And then we press enter. So we'll get our answer. So we drag this all the way down. And then our answer is replicated. Is that clear enough? Okay. Okay. Awesome. 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 Thank you. All right. So now let's move on and look at this. This is very simple and straightforward. It's something that we've already been doing. So we are just looking at the basic arithmetics, right? Looking at the basic arithmetics. So the addition. So the reason why I brought this is just for us to be able to do a relative, a referencing, right? Just for us to reference the cell. So equal to this plus this, we get an answer equal to this minus this, we get an answer equal to this. Uh, multiplied by this, we get an answer and equal to this divided by this, and then we get an answer. So this part is just straightforward. It's just for us to just um look at just the basic arithmetic operators. So these are called the formulas, right? These are called the formulas. So the things that you have to, please excuse me. Okay, so formulas are basically what we are doing here. So equal to this plus this, equal to this minus this, equal to this multiplied by this, and equal to this divided by this. So those are the basic formulas in Excel, the arithmetic operators. So now let's move on to the last part we are doing today, which is the functions. The functions. So we are using these data sets, right? This is quite 1,500 um, data sets, and then we want to answer these questions. So the reason why I've brought them in as questions is for us to understand the logic behind these functions. So sum is basically asking the question, what is the total? What is the total? Right? What is the total? And then sum if is saying that what is the total of something specific happening? All right. So, but then before I bring in some if, let me introduce you to if. So this is if. If is a conditional statement, and what if is saying is that it's a two-way thing. It's either true or false. It's what they call in math the Boolean operator. So it's either one or zero, right? It's either true or false. That is what if does for you. So if this condition is met, then tell me this. Otherwise, tell me that. So let's just look at a typical example. We want to say that if the um, let me see, if the total price is greater than 1,000, right? Then let's say the person is a big customer. But if it's so now, it automatically means that if the person is not um if the person is not if the person is buying below 1,000, then the person is either what we can categorize as a not a big customer, or say, what's the word to use, or say a small customer. So depending on the time on the term we use to refer to it, right? So now let's look at how it works. Equal to if, right? This total price, again referencing, right, is greater than 1,000. So that is our logical test. If is a logical test, right? So if the total price is greater than 1,000, comma, so the value if true, tell us big customer. Otherwise, the person is a small customer. So, to the basic understanding of the if statement of the if function is this. So you bring in a logical test, and then after you've brought in the logical test, you ask Excel to return two conditions. If that condition is met, if that logical test is met, it should give you something. Otherwise, it should give you another. Okay, so let me take time and explain it again. So the if statement is a logical statement, right? And it is saying that if the condition of the logic is met, tell us this. Otherwise, tell us that. So that's what I was trying to explain with the fact that, so we bring in our if statement, right? So if the total price, right, is greater than 1,000, and the total price can be found here. So I'll just click on this, right? If it is greater than 1,000, then tell us that that sale that we have made is a big sale. So instead of using big customer, you can even use big. So now when you look at the syntax, right, it is telling you that if, so logical is a logical test, right? So now what is the logical test? The logical test is if this is greater than 1,000, right? Now that is the logical test. So we are done. So now, comma, what should be the value if the logical test is true? So the value should be big, right? Otherwise, if it is not true, tell us small. Okay, now I click enter. So you realize that now it is saying big. The reason why we have um, clicked on the J2 is so that we can drag this formula down. And then again, remember relative referencing, right? So now this is J2. When we come down, then you realize that it has moved on to J3, then J4, then J5. So now when you look at the sales, you realize that the sales that are less than 1,000, it is telling us it is small. Then this one is big, this is big, this is big. If it is less than 1,000, then it is small, 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 small. Okay, that's basically how if works. So you are saying that if something is met, if something has happened, then tell us this, or if that thing has not happened, tell us that. Is that clear enough? Okay, 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 awesome, awesome, thank you. So we are good to go. Now let's look at switch before we move on to the other functions. Switch basically helps you to change something. So let me just show you. Now all these, because online gift card, all these credit card are not common in Ghana. So all of those things will change them to Momo, right? Then we'll leave debit card and cash. All right. So now we'll just go ahead and say equal to switch. So what is the expression? The expression is whatever is here, right? So comma. So the first value is online. Okay. Then comma. What should be the result? So if you see online, return Momo. So switch online to Momo. So that's how come you are saying. So the expression is what the cell in which what we want to change is in. So in this case, it is K2 online. So we just click on K2 so that when we are done writing this formula, when we just drag down, when it comes to K3, it will apply the same logic. When it comes to K4, it will apply the same thing. All right. So now we comma again. So then the next value is gift card. Okay. You have to type it exactly the way you can see it there. Gift card. So anywhere you see gift card, still tell me Momo. So that is results 2. And then comma again, default 3. Say anywhere you see credits. Now there is something. Anytime you are writing a function and you are typing a text, it has to come in a quotation mark. You have to enclose it in a quotation mark so that Excel will know that it is a text that you are typing inside a function. Okay. All right. So let's move on. So now credit card. Okay. And then also still tell us Momo. All right. Then comma. Um, Otherwise, I think we are done. So otherwise, just give us this default value and then we can close this and then that works. So when I do this, okay, so do we get this? Is this clear? So basically what we're doing is we're just switching, right? We're just switching. So just replace something. Now you realize that the parts where we have debit card and then cash is coming as blank. And the reason why it's coming as blank is because I have brought double quotation. So anytime you're writing a formula and then you bring a double quotation, you are telling Excel to return blank. But in this case, I want Excel to just return whatever is in that same cell for me. So I'll just come to the first one here. I've done something wrong. So I'll just, where is, so double quotation, all right. And then I'll just come here and then I'll change this to, so now after everything, all of these are the ones I want to switch. Otherwise, the last result I want you to give me is if you don't find this thing to change to this, don't find this thing to change to that, just give me whatever is here and then I'm okay. All right, so double click. So now the blank spaces are just returning the exact thing that is in the previous place. The exact thing that is in the previous place. Any question? Any question?
No, please.
Okay, okay, awesome. So if there is no question, I would want us to call it a night here so that tomorrow then we'll just kick off with the other functions. So now we have an idea of what the if statement means, all right? So let me just do a bit of an explanation of the questions. So now the sum is answering the question, what is the total sales, right? The sum function is answering the question, what is the total sales? And then the sum if is now saying that when we look at these data sets, there are laptops sold, right? The under products, we sold laptops. So what is the total sum of the laptops sold? So what we'll be doing is we'll be telling Excel to sum if if a laptop has been sold. So sum if a laptop has been sold. So again, remember if is a logical statement that if a certain condition has been met. So now the condition here is has a laptop been sold? If the laptop has been sold, sum all of the sales of the laptop together and then give us the answer for that. Then we'll come to some ifs. I think we have to look at ifs as well. So if looks at one condition, ifs looks at more than one condition. So the same thing applies to the sum ifs. So the sum ifs is saying that if two conditions has been met, if two or more conditions has been met, then give us the answer. So now what is the total sales of phones by store A? So when we come to the data set, we realize that there are products, there is a phone, and then there are stores. We have store store B, store A, store C, and the likes. So the question is, what is the total sales of the store? What is the total sales of phone by store A, right? By store A. So we'll look at how we can do that as well. And then we'll look at count. So how many numbers are in a certain range? and then count blank. How many blank cells are in a certain range? And then count if. Count if. That one, we are just looking for the total units, not the sum, right? So how many tablets were sold? When we come here and we look at the product, how many tablets were sold in this particular range? You don't have to now come and be counting 1, 2, 3. You can just use a function to answer the question, how many tablets were sold? And then we can come to count ifs. How many chairs were sold in store B? And then we come to average. What is the average sale? What is the average sale of desk? What is the average online sales in the north? So again, we have different payment methods. So how many people in the north, right, bought online? All right, how many people in the north bought online? And then we also look at what is the minimum sale and then what is the maximum sale. All right, so those are the things we'll be kicking off with tomorrow. And then I think the three, what we'll continue to do is to look at filters, right? We look at the basic filter, then we'll come to how to use, we'll do our advanced filter, how to use the filter function, right? So there is the filter that you have under here, which is data. You come and click on this. Maybe you just highlight these and click on filter. There you want to just look at, say you want to look at energy, click OK, and then it gives you who is in energy. But in this case, we'll be looking at the function, right? So equal to filter, right? And then we'll do something like this, which this is the array, include the country, all right? This equal to this, and then if empty, give me blank and enter. Hey, I think I've missed it. Let me see. I have to get this right. Then I think it should be this. Wow, look at that. I mean, I've forgotten my code too. How do you do this again? Like this. Oh, so I'll still have to also refresh my notes. This is the thing with Excel. The more you stay away from it, the more you forget what you're doing. All right, but then we'll figure it all out by tomorrow, right? So yeah, these are some of the things we'll be looking at, and God keeping us, tomorrow we would continue. All right. So we'll call it a night here, and then if
But
there is any question.
there's one more. There's something real quick, sir.
Okay. All right. Just
Yes. When you were doing the switch
yeah.
um condition,
Yeah.
I think you started with K2
Yes.
and then instructed it that, like, K2 is online.
Yeah.
So you see that gift card is also, let's say, K
Okay.
K3. So
Okay. Yeah.
why did you bring K3 in front of gift card before gift card came? And
Okay.
then credit card, yes. So I was thinking like it will run through, since K2 came before online,
Yeah.
then K3 should come before gift card, and then credit card should be K something before the credit card comes.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was
So let me.
expecting that, but it worked anyway. But I was
Yeah.
just reasoning that maybe there'll be some uniformity to run it through.
Yeah. So let me explain what is happening. So it's referencing we are doing. So what we are
Okay.
doing is that in the first cell, which is M2, where we are writing the code, and that is the reason why we referenced K2. So
Okay.
what should happen is that whatever you see, we are telling Excel that whatever you see in K2, right? Then run this code against it.
Oh,
If you
okay.
see online, return Momo. If you see gift card in K2, return Momo. If you see credit
Okay.
card in K2, return Momo. Otherwise,
Mm.
just give us what is in K2 back. So
Okay.
now, when we drag the formula and we come down, you realize that relative referencing, now it has changed to K3. But because we had already instructed it in the first part that if you see gift card, return Momo, that's how come when we drag it down here, it sees gift card and then it is telling us Momo. I don't know if that is clear.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So and then when we come to the part where there is debit card too, because we didn't switch debit card, it is returning what is still in K8, which is debit card over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you hadn't brought that K8, debit card would have gone blank or zero.
Exactly. It would have been blank. It would have been
Okay.
blank. So if we delete it here, and then we just do this. So now this is just giving us error. So instead of the error, we can just do comma and then just bring double quotation twice. So double quotation twice means that it should return blank. And
Okay.
then we now drag it. So you realize that it will be blank.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
anytime, oh, you're welcome. So another thing I can just chip in here is that anytime you see something like this, NA, there is an if function that we use to clear it. So you just come and start with if NA, right? If
Okay.
NA, so it's going to write this entire thing. So you are just going to bring this entire thing again. So now in this case, we are going to delete this double blank, right? So then we'll bring a comma. So what value should Excel give us if NA? So let's just say, remember when we are writing a text in a formula or in a function, we bring it in double quotation. So just say not applicable. So we close it. So this is what Excel should tell us if it is showing NA. Then we close this and then we press enter. So now if we drag it, then you see that it is going to tell us not applicable. So anytime you are working on a formula and then you see an NA error, you can just write this in front, all right, and then you continue. So another thing I would just want to highlight quickly before we leave is how this syntax works. So you realize that the moment we start this, if NA, it is telling us what is the value. When you look closely, you realize that this value part is bold, and then the value if NA is not bold. So it's telling us that when you are writing this formula, you write if NA, you open the bracket, you bring the value that you want to bring. Then after the value, bring a comma. The comma is always very important. So the moment you bring the comma, you are going to see that the bold is going to move to the part that it says value if NA. So it now means that you are done writing the value. So what should be the value if NA? So now the value if NA is now what we want to write. So we'll just say not, let's just write something, not, and then we close it. So now we can now close the brackets, enter. So now when we drag, it is going to tell us not. But if we don't bring this comma in between value and value if any, and let's say we delete it, so it means that this not is still part of the if of the value that we are writing. So if I press enter, it is going to tell me that the formula I've written is not complete. The formula I've written is not complete. So I just wanted to draw our attention to that.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Any other question? All right. So if there is none, we'll then call it a night, and then we would continue tomorrow. All right. So have a good night, everyone, and then we'll continue tomorrow.
Great. Good night.
Good night, sir.